for those who've never seen us before, if you're live or watching the recording, I'm Alyssa Nykel.
And I'm Kathryn Grayson Nance. And
And-
we are your Kendo UI developer advocates.
And design, right? Like you're
Design. Yeah. It's a weird one. I was talking to our boss Sarah the other day about this, where we were like, I'm doing more and more of this design stuff. And sometimes I'm speaking just to designers and they're not necessarily developers at all.
Yeah.
And so being just the developer advocate, I feel like sometimes I'll like get up and be like, I'm the developer advocate and here to talk to all of you non-developers. So I just started putting design into my title. It's not official.
I like it. So we are supposed to be covering so much today. We've got Angular, React, design. Well, I'm like, we there will be rabbit holes and adventures, but other than, I'm trying to think.
I think really we're just gonna play around. I think that's what I'm here to do, is to open up some code, to share my screen, play around, poke at some of I put a couple of our new components into your favorite, my favorite, the beloved Star Trek demo.
Yeah. Oh, this makes me happy.
Which I will say took a little bit of updating because it hadn't been a minute.
So what version did you update to, like the latest React and all the dependencies and things, or?
Ish. I did. I got pretty close. So 18 is the last major version. I'm on like 18.3. I think there has been a new, there's like an 18 point, I want to say it's like 5 or so, which is meant to get you ready to do the 19 upgrade in terms of setting things up for React server components. This particular application is so old that it was not built. It was not built in Next.js. It does not have a framework. It was a create React app build.
Okay.
So
is it hard to take that kind of app and like add Next.js into it? Like, is that
I think no, I'm gonna have to, if I want to, and not if I want to, I am going to redo this because at this point we are starting to roll out server components of our own, which I'm really excited about. And I don't have this app is not created to support that right now, because this was when I made it was so far pre-server components. I want to eventually completely refactor this, just like start ground up, move everything over into Next.js, because this was also built pre-ThemeBuilder for us. So she's old, which seems silly, right? Because I joined Progres only 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years in August. So the fact that like this was one of the
can go. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of developers' biggest things, because a lot of them can't just pitch it, right? They have to like.
I am. I'm just gonna throw it away. I mean, I'm gonna like borrow some of my like building the CSS grid for this was a pain. I will be borrowing. I will be taking that with me. But otherwise, like, yeah, this was one of the first things that I built when I joined the company, for like, because I joined right before release, and I was like, I'm gonna be so impressive. I built this whole app.
Oh, I love it.
But yeah, so she's showing her age a little bit. She's hobbling around on a walker, and she needs a little refresh, which I did not have time to rebuild from the ground up before this stream. So right now we're rolling with the CRA, the Create React app build. Next time you see her, she'll be in all her Next.js glory with some server components and everything to boot, because by then we'll have React 19 as well, like stable. So that's the context of what I'm going to show you today. I want to point out, though, if you are interested in our server components, that was a huge part of the React release for us, and it's really exciting. We actually have a whole Twitch stream that is dedicated entirely to that, in which one of the devs came on and joined me, and we did a fantastic, like, super deep dive into React server components and how they work and how to implement. It was fantastic. You can find it on our YouTube channel. You can watch it on demand. So that's another like preface, is like, I'm not going to be putting any server components in this together today, because she can't support it yet. But we do have, I was on a stream in which we did that. It's not this one, but you can watch it. So yeah, I'm like, Yeah, I think I'm one version back on official stable releases for React, is that there's one more that they really only recommend you upgrading to. This was like the longest possible answer to your question, which was very simple. You're like, "Is this on the most recent version of React?" And I was like, but
But honestly, like, it's so complicated right now.
it is.
Angular's the same way where it's like, don't
Yeah.
don't poke at the dependencies right now, darling.
Yeah. There is one more stable version there's a more current stable version of React for this, but you really only need to upgrade to it as a stepping stone for React 19, and since I have no intent of upgrading this particular app to that,
Yeah.
I didn't do it. So, we're
If you ever wanna, like,
pretty
do that
recent.
on stream, though, I would be your buddy through that, and I'd learn all of the Next.js
Ooh.
things.
We could do that. That'd be fun. We could, like, spin up a new React app, and you could watch me fight with all the CSS that
Oh,
I
you
wrote
could
3 years
there'd
ago.
be some pretty basic React questions going down, so it'd be probably a good beginner,
It would be fun.
resource. Yeah, we should,
We should
'cause
totally do that.
does React have, like, a CLI type of "I generate things for you" situation?
Yeah.
Is that what React app is?
That is. So Create React App, just for full context, is now, like, depreciated, but that was what it was. It was
Well,
like
okay,
a
but, like, what if you wanna, like, create a new application in React with Next.js?
that
There's
does
not a
exist. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
general
No, that so
version?
frameworks are really interesting, right? React is so different from Angular in that it is a library and not a framework.
Right.
So there is nothing React specific that works that way. There are several frameworks and like extra things you can add on. So like right Next.js or Waku or Remix or like any of those are React frameworks. And so all of the like CLI commands and stuff are going to be tied to those specific frameworks
Oh, it's
rather than
tied to
React
that.
itself.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So
So,
and there
but you're not
are
ever, like, writing it from scratch or making new
Ow.
files and,
No,
like,
no, no,
you
no, no,
have
no.
something that okay, because
Yeah.
with I have a friend who, like, even though we have an Angular CLI, and he's, like, wicked smart and been doing Angular for longer than I've been
Mhm.
alive, he just copies. He goes to it like, he'll open an old an old Angular, like, repo, and he'll just copy over the architecture or a component and change it how he needs it, like, he will not use the CLI, but he's still, like, fast and it works for him, so I thought maybe, like, whenever you're even when
Yeah,
you're, like, copying over, like, this CSS grid and stuff, like, I'd love to see how you do it just because it's
I
very
do.
intriguing.
No, for specific pages and stuff, I will just literally copy paste.
Grab it, okay.
For the architecture, I do prefer to let the kind of CLI or whatever tool I'm using
Yeah.
do that so that I know I've got the most recent version. I'm not copying over any mistakes that I made or any weird things that haven't,
Yeah.
because
No,
sometimes
yeah.
stuff changes. Like, the
Yeah,
structure. I mean, Next.js has changed the way they structure applications over the course of
yeah.
their versions. And if I were to pull an old Next.js app, it might not do everything I want it to
That you
do.
want it to. That makes sense.
I'm gonna kick us off. I'm gonna pull up and we can play around a little bit with the Sankey chart. So I popped her in over here
Oh,
in
it's so much
engineering.
prettier than mine.
Isn't she
Wait,
so cute?
what's
What?
happening? Did it just animate? What did you do?
Oh, I
Did you
hovered
Oh, you were
briefly.
hovering. I was like, "Wait a minute, what are you doing?" Okay, okay,
No, no, no. I moved my mouse and 'cause this is one of the coolest parts actually about the chart is that it is interactive. And so as you are hovering or like moving, it will isolate the different strands and it
Mhm.
will give you this little tooltip that you can see pop up there when I rehover that will give you exactly the information you need and kind of one flow into the other, all of that. You can also do that if you hover over the legend. It will highlight the associated things, which I thought was a very, very nice touch.
Mm.
So, but yeah, and it was, I will also say, uh, one of the things that I love the most about our components is that they pick up the styling automatically, right? Because we're using the same CSS variables and everything, because our style structure is so sophisticated and is so united, I did not have to style this at all. I just dropped it in. And because my CSS, I'm using like an exported CSS from ThemeBuilder, so it's already targeted to all the variables that we use and all of that. I just plopped it in and already like right my typefaces were updated, my colors in the chart were updated. It looked like it belonged immediately. I didn't have to do anything other than I think I specified how wide I wanted it on the
Mm.
screen. So I'm gonna pop over here. Oh, she's over here in this. Yeah, so it's also like almost no code at all. I feel almost a little bit guilty being like, let's look at the code for this, and it's like 5 lines. But the other truth is it's so easy, right? I split everything off into its own components. This one probably didn't even have to be, right? Because it literally is nothing. So all I did was import some data over here in my Sankey data chart. It's just a JSON file. And it breaks down kind of each of the different nodes that will populate the chart and how they are connected. So each one has an ID and then a label, which you provide. And then you can start to create links between all of them. So source ID and target ID, which will kind of tell you which pieces are going to go together in that second half of the chart. Just to remind you, right over here, we're talking about like, right, this one is whatever, holodeck into Quarkspire, right? Streamlining. So when we're defining that over here, we're setting these links and setting values for that and creating those relationships that will be reflected in the chart. But I think is like pretty plain language. So like even knowing basically nothing about Sankey charts before this release, I was able to create one pretty darn fast. So super, super easy data structure. I lost my Sankey. There is my index. So yeah, all I did over here, right, imported my data, imported my links from that JSON that we just looked at. I went ahead and set a width and height on this. I probably could have, you could make the argument even should have built this into my CSS. I didn't. I let it be inline styled and it works just fine. And she's responsive. Did you know that, Alyssa? Like, this big old chart. Look at that.
Okay, yeah. No, yeah. But you know what I really want? I want this like Mandela effect where you like click on one of the streams and it like zooms in and breaks it off into multiple other
Oh my
streams and you
God.
just like keep going deeper.
I
I'm
feel like
thinking perhaps the next release.
I feel like that would make me motion sick.
Fine.
It's just no, I'm good, thanks. I see the vision. It's just not for me.
Okay. Hey, respect.
Mhm. I'm also I see you working because you've shared your screen, and so I can see that in the background you're like typing away. I'm
No,
so curious
secret.
what you're working on. I
I
can't wait
I
to see it.
honestly I was smiling because I wanted to show something with this component that I'm about to show, but I couldn't like beforehand get it working. And so I just figured out like, oh, you have
You
to
got it
actually
working?
like import something. Yes. And so it's so cute. I can't wait. But no, on to React things, not Angular.
Yeah. Anyway, Sankey
Oh
chart,
yes, thank you.
extremely
Oh, I
cute,
also wanted to
extremely
mention
visual.
it's really cool that you do dark mode because I'm like hardcore light mode girl.
Oh, because
So
the
even if
ponies
we
are
have
super light
dupe,
mode.
yes, even if we have dupe components, like they just look night and day different.
Ha. Yeah, no, it's true. I had not seen the Sankey in a dark mode configuration yet. And again, like took no additional adjustments. Plug and play, literally. I feel like I overuse that term, especially when we're talking about release, but it is super true of all our components. Anyway, plug and play, and it looked super nice. Like I just picked up the styles that I already had and was already beautiful. So
You
didn't
know,
have to go in.
I wonder if your styles, I mean, technically it should
Mm.
work, right? If I took all of your overrides that make
Yeah.
every single component you pull in dark mode and like make it work well, if I took your variables and your overrides like into my app, my Angular app, it should work, right?
It should work. So one of these days, actually, you know what maybe we'll do? Maybe we will like as part of this, like
Yeah.
spin up new apps super fast, like empty applications.
Yeah.
And like I can export the CSS from ThemeBuilder
That's what I think we need
and
because
we can
I
drop
want
them.
to plug it in and see like are there any holes between our
Mhm.
components? Like is it compatible fully? Like I'm very curious.
So I'm gonna take this like opportunity to segue into talking about our new color mode, which is super, super gorgeous. So it wasn't necessarily what I was going to talk about next, but it's what I'm going to talk about next now. So this is especially useful for those of us. Oh, hold on. I'm going to switch this over to the design system real quick. So if you haven't seen our design system docs, they are amazing, gorgeous, functional, helpful, fantastic. Especially, right, they are targeted for folks that are looking to build their own design system using our tools as kind of a launching point. But if you're doing any kind of styling, customization with our components at all, this is the place to be getting your styles hooked up. We have a whole design. I'm just jumping back in. We have a whole design system support thing, resources for folks that are doing big styling that maybe is more than just like, hey, our brand is red, so maybe we should make everything Angular red, and if you want a deep dive on everything, typography, color, spacing, icons, the whole shebang, like the way Kendo customization works, the way each of our components is broken down, how you need to customize, like all of this is here. And in addition to being just Kendo information, this is also really good information in general about how colors work in a design system, how to theme things, how to make accessible choices, right? Like it's woven in with our Kendo stuff, and it is, of course, using all of our Kendo stuff as an example. But there's really good information in here just in general. But I pulled this open with the intent of talking about our new color system, right? Which is just a change for us for Kendo specifically. Well, I guess Kendo Telerik for our component library specifically, with the intent of really customizing and aligning all of our variable names, making things super compatible everywhere, making sure that there's not, the way things are styled in Angular is exactly the way things are styled in React, is exactly the way things are styled in Blazor, it's exactly the way things are styled in jQuery, et cetera, so on and so forth. It does include a lot of changes in terms of like the way we've broken down variables in our styles, how we're naming things, how we're grouping things. And it makes it super simple, right? They've got this very cool demo here right in the design system page where you can just like pop through and see how quick and easy it is, right? And all the kinds of things that like changing a primary color, for example, is going to affect.
So if you have an empty app like we were talking about, and you want to like export your grouping of styles and be like, okay, because like for instance, whenever you spin up a new Angular app, it's all like white and light themed. But there are like some pre-templating things and styling things. If you wanted to like take that application and throw in your dark theme, but you don't necessarily have any Kendo components yet, like I'm assuming there's like, I don't know, like a way to get the theming in without necessarily having to have any components yet, right? Like you just
So there's a couple things that I want to speak to around this. The first is that, did you know in ThemeBuilder you can style like your basic HTML components? They're all the way down here at the bottom. And so we did this with the intention of wanting you to be able to keep all of your styles in one place, right? So if you are building your own like custom CSS, right?
Everybody is, right? Even if you're using our stuff, you always have that one CEO person who's like, we need this.
Probably. Probably. Although we do know that we have some people who don't. And for those, I want to remind you folks that we have preset color schemes. We have, you can find them right up here in this like little paint bucket, right? We have all of these themes. And you can flip them on and it will automatically apply and you can export the CSS. So if you really are in a position where you are building something, maybe greenfield, maybe we just happen to have a color that aligns with your brand color, or maybe you don't care about brand colors. Maybe this is something internal or a side project or, whatever. Gosh, my internet connection is bad in this Airbnb. I'm just watching this spin and I'm like, this takes no time usually. And it's really
I hate that. I hate when that happens. I'm sorry. I can pull it up later if it's not working.
You might have to. So we do be spinning. But anyway, you can select from those drop downs. And you can apply any of our preset color themes, and we will, we've done the hard work for you. We have designers and stuff, and they know what they're doing. They're super skilled, in fact. So you can choose one of our color themes and just not sweat it. If you do have to make changes, I'm going to just refresh this, see if I can. There. Oh my God, no. Did you see it go through right before I refreshed the page? I'm going to cry.
Sorry, it's not funny at all.
No.
I pulled up the.
Oh, cool.
It's saved. Where is it?
It saved it.
Did it?
I got it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. See, we're in dark mode now.
Okay, but like real quick, so like I'm on the Progress Design Systems kit page. From there, do you just go to getting started, and then how did you?
Are you looking for ThemeBuilder? What are you looking for?
For exactly where you are. I wanted to like.
Yeah, so I'm in ThemeBuilder right now.
Oh, I got you. I see. Not in the design kit.
Not in the design kit. I switched over. I should have made that more clear. Yeah, we're in ThemeBuilder at this moment. I switched over to ThemeBuilder because I feel like it's one of the clearest ways actually to show the difference in our new color system variables, because you can see all of our variables over here in this like breakdown here, right? All of our colors and like, so if we go, let's create a new project, in fact. We'll name this KUI Q2. Great. Right. So we see like when we load completely default, we've changed nothing. We've just spun up a new project. We get all of these along the side, right? Our primary hover, primary active, right? All of these kind of gradations here. We've really broken it down. We've gotten super detailed. I'm going to flip over now and pull up. This is an older project. This is an early version of the LCARS system that I have not been using, that I made, you can see here in 2022 R3. So, and you can see that we have way more limited options over here in terms of how we were defining our variables, right? We're looking at like just primary, secondary info. There's almost nothing like going on. We were so much more limited. And if you flip over to even just what we start with now, you have so much control, right? In so many different ways you can go in here. And each of these is going to align perfectly with our components and what we use to style our components. So we can start to mix things up. Change our colors, change our apps, get everything looking just how we want it. So as always, rate all of that complete WYSIWYG stuff in the ThemeBuilder. Fantastic. One of the other great releases that we got in the ThemeBuilder this year that I want to show off just a little bit is the styles editor, which I love, right? A lot of times when we talk about the ThemeBuilder, we're like, we know you hate writing CSS, right? Who likes CSS? I'm here to tell you, it's me. I'm the problem. I love to write CSS. And as much as I loved what we were doing with the ThemeBuilder, there were still times when I would just be like, I know exactly, like, this would be faster if I could just write the CSS.
Write the CSS.
Like, absolutely. If I could just, like, I know exactly how I would do this if I could just write everything. And they felt the same. So now we have this really cool styles editor where you can go in and make changes yourself, right? This is all of the CSS.
Where did you go? Because I pulled up one of my themes in ThemeBuilder. How did you get to this point?
So you're going to want to flip over to Advanced Edit, and then you're going to want to click on any of your components. And then over here in the right-hand side, there's now a toggle between Properties and Styles Editor. Properties is going to be, and this is, to be clear, this is two different ways to edit the same thing. So you can use your properties to make changes here.
Oh my gosh,
in the dropdown.
Like literally life-changing. The properties panel has always given me kind of like it's like I'm translating. It's like I'm trying to translate what is this properties panel in my brain. But like seeing the CSS is like, I speak this language.
Right. So here, like, full disclosure, this is ugly. Don't style your components like that. But I just need to pick a color that would be obvious, right? So like, yeah, we can do, let's do this green. And we see that change there, right? In our styles edit, right, we can see that's been applied here in
So I'm
element
wondering,
styles.
should you
So
do
we
it
can,
in element styles or like are we ever at a point where we're like in a group or a parent and we should do it on like a different selector or does it always say, you know?
you can do it wherever you're
Okay.
comfortable. This is
Okay.
really two alternate approaches to the same
Gotcha.
thing, right? I could go in here and it'll even start to autocomplete for me, right? So if I start typing primary, it's going to auto-populate all my variables. And as I'm updating here, right, you can see it's updating live. So I can switch here. I can know that I'm still working with this, or I can start to put in my own.
Okay.
So, you know, I could do it myself. I do, right? Like with great power comes great responsibility. If you don't feel like you write great CSS or you don't want to do it this way, you don't have to. Properties is still 100% here for you. And I can switch over to properties and you can see it's picked up what I've done here. I can switch back and forth. I don't have to like commit to changing it just one way or just the other. I can make the changes that I'm comfortable with in the styles editor. I can hop back over and make the changes that I want to in the drop down properties editor. It's exactly mix and match whatever you're comfy with. I love having the opportunity to just like swap over and change the things that I know exactly where they are and be like, you know what? Yeah, font size. I'm gonna say I want my font size to be 30 because I can't see. Oh, maybe I should add a. Yeah, it would help if I would put a unit on that. Just 30. Just do what you will.
Yeah. Whatever you're feeling in the
And you
moment.
can, right. Well, and you can see as I'm writing my element styles here, it's telling me what I'm overwriting in the inherited styles. So you can really easily keep track of like what you're creating that is going to be an
I love that.
override, basically. It's super cool. I think it's fantastic. Anyway, you were asking me about changing things
Yeah.
like default, right? I would say one of the coolest things we can do here is to theme our base HTML elements. So in addition to, of course, all the Kendo UI components, if you really want to keep all of your like styles in one place, this is perfect again for like design systems, places where you're trying to create like a single source of truth. You can do all your heading styles, all your like basic divs, spans, paragraph tags,
Is it
images,
trickling down?
whatever.
So like what like with all the styles that you've already done, are those affecting these base ones or no, I need to like
No, these are exclusively for like completely
yeah,
plain bread
yep.
and butter
Okay.
HTML stuff.
Okay.
So this is not really like, yeah. So
Well,
let's
let's just say
say
though that like
actually,
one was using something like Bootstrap. Pretty
yeah,
sure it has overarching things even if it wasn't something you had meant to. So I was curious if like there are these like baseline styles, for instance, it's like, okay, cool, you're using Kendo UI, so all your headings are going to be this size, right?
yeah. We might see that for places where you have a completely like it's just rare in our components to have a base element that does not also have a class applied to it. So while we're building on like, a link is always going to be an A tag, but it will probably be an A tag that has a class that's like, you know,
Yeah,
KUI like
yeah.
kind of
Or
thing.
like often
So
in
we're not going to
Angular, it'll
see,
be like, oh, it's a button, but it has like a directive in line that says Kendo
yeah,
button. So it's like giving it that knowledge and that ability to pull in. So it makes sense.
right. So you can see, let's just play with it and find out, right? I'm going to make paragraphs
Yeah.
blue, which is terrible.
Do
Don't do
it.
that. But awful, right? So we can scroll down here and we see that reflected.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, all of my paragraphs are blue like links, which is why you should never do that. But as I'm scrolling through here in our components, we don't see that reflected because we don't have any like completely base, unstyled, like whatever, unclassed, classless, tacky, if you will. No. But yeah, all of our stuff is so specific. You're not gonna
Yeah.
generally override by doing that.
I was
So
talking to one of the Angular devs last week because we had some new features that were highlighted in this release. But whenever in our demos, whether it's Angular or React, you have a drop down that lets you change the theme.
Mhm.
So it's like preset themes that we have available.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of our
These guys.
demos in Angular, at least, that it seemingly does nothing. And I was talking with
Interesting.
her about it, and she was like, "No, that's not broken. It's because there's even more specific styles in that
Mhm.
mini demo that are overriding the theme." And I noticed this on like, I think it was like the scheduler or something. I clicked and made it like an all blue Nordic theme or something. And whenever it like loaded in, some of the base behind the scenes things had that blue, but then others had orange overlaying it. And so I went and was like going through the styles and noticed that they did have overrides for this specific demo.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something to like keep an eye out for, like whenever you're going through our documentation and you're trying out new themes on specific features or components.
Right.
Each of these demos are encapsulated, and they might have some specific things
Right.
they're calling out. So just check it out, like behind the scenes, what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of times we are making those styling choices in our encapsulated demos to highlight a specific thing, right?
Yes.
Or to make it
Yes.
look functional or real world or whatever, in a way that might not happen if we just like left a completely blank, unstyled component out there, you know?
Yep.
So you do always have to check. And you can't always just like, well, first off, you shouldn't be blindly copying pasting code from anywhere. Like that's
Dude,
just
what was it? It was my console. I was copy pasting a thing to check on my cache because I was having some weird bugs in Arc.
yeah.
And my console warned me. It was like, you should not copy paste random code. You don't know what it's going to do into your code. I
Yes.
was like, judgment. Like,
It's correct. Oh man. Whew. But anyway, I have been talking about ThemeBuilder for a while, and I don't want us to run out of time. Do you want to switch over and do some Angular stuff? Because
yes,
it's
I
been
do. We're in the ThemeBuilder, so I'm going to pull up my screen and show you. I was looking at all of your um, updates, but with my theme, that's the Windows.
I
It's
look, I just
beautiful.
love the ThemeBuilder so much, and I love that this is possible. I love
I'm
what
going
you've
to.
created.
So here's what I want to do, because like I want to get your dark mode, but then I
Mhm.
also want to have like, it's not just day and night sun moon toggle, but it's like, day night Windows 95, right? Like it's got
Yeah,
options.
yeah, yeah.
It's got
Which of
options.
course is not accurate to how Windows 95 was when there was no dark mode available at all. But
You act like you remember this. Like why would you
you think I
remember
wasn't there in
that?
1995? You think I didn't
I
exist?
was there. I have no memory of it. Why do you? Like what?
Hold on. I have to find I'm gonna do the worst streaming thing possible, which is where I
Please.
hold my phone up to the camera and show
Oh
you a
my God, yes.
picture.
Hang on. Let's hide my screen so that we can see yours bigger.
I gotta find hold on, I
This.
gotta find the
And
photo
then
I'm
we're gonna
thinking of.
make you. How do I do that? Okay, like this. Yes. Okay. I made.
Okay, here we
Yeah.
go. You ready? This is baby
Oh,
Kathryn at the computer.
I love it.
So yeah,
Excellent.
I was there, I remember.
Listen, again, I just want to
Proof,
reiterate, just
receipts.
because you were somewhere doesn't mean you remember at all.
That sounds
Like,
like an Alyssa problem.
okay, I think this AirPod just died. We're
Oh,
gonna give her a
perfect.
quick charge. I'm gonna
Bye,
be like
Sean.
solo
Thanks for
eating
hanging
for a
out with
second.
us. Sean has to do.
Mwah. Bye. Have a good meeting.
Bye.
Okay, so I'm gonna add ponies up. For those of you who have
Nice.
never hung out with me on demoing, I have a app. It's called the Tour of Heroes or the Tour of Ponies. And back in the day, the Angular day, John Papa created a demo that was on the Angular docs throughout many different features and things that you were learning. You could
Mhm.
reference this demo, clone this demo, play around with it. So I took it and I revived it and I made it my own, and I'm keeping it going, but with ponies. And so here is with this application, you have a couple of options of like, you can jump to a specific hero, right? And then I've got the skeleton component that like loads like
Yeah, yeah,
while the
yeah.
data is loading. And then you also have, I've got these top hero cards here for like, the top ponies that are number one. And then I've got like an expansion panel where you can play around with drag and drop, like if you disagree with like the
I was
order
gonna say,
in
I
which I
love how
place them.
authoritatively you said the top ponies.
Yeah, like, obviously, this is unquestionably, like, the top ponies.
Objectively, the top
Yes,
ponies.
like, it's been decided. So if you keep scrolling, I have a sidebar, but because, I'm so zoomed in, the sidebar is now taking up the full page. But I have a sidebar where I
It's
load in
responsive.
the
Yeah.
latest components. Oh, I mean, it is up into a point. So, like, for instance, the pivot grid, she's great and, like, she's so much fun.
She can only
But,
get
like,
so small because 'cause she's got so
when
much
she
data.
gets like, yes, when we sidebar the
Yeah.
pivot grid, things go, and I was like, this is one of the reasons I was like, I was thinking about making a pivot grid demo where I, like, include the pop-up, for instance, and so, like,
Oh,
whenever
yeah,
it
like
gets so
a
small, you have to,
full
like, click on a
screen.
pop-up in order to see the pivot grid, and we do have a pop-up component, but our pop-up
Mm.
component wasn't updated this release, so I didn't really have a good reason to, like, other than the fact that it bothers me when the pivot grid is tiny, so
That's fair.
um, these are our new we got 4 new buds, and I threw them all into this application. My name is Alyssa Michelle on GitHub. If you wanna clone this app, play around with it, I can show that to you at the very end on my GitHub. But yeah, it's the only handle that's not consistent, and I have reached out to GitHub, and they're very sticklers about not changing usernames. So, anyways, that was a mistake I made back in college, so it's fine.
Can you make a new GitHub and, like, add yourself to all of your existing projects? It's just
Honestly, like, here's my goal. My goal is to one day befriend someone high enough at GitHub, like, through my
to get them to
advocacy,
override the rules for
that
you.
they can just change my name. We have 3 others as well that were added to the Kendo UI Angular release. The AI prompt component, the rating component, and the timeline component. And I actually started playing around with the AI prompt component, and I was
Ooh.
like, wait, am I allowed to do this? Where I was like looking at like the LLMs and who should I pull in live so that I can like get some, like even if it's
Mhm.
like locally, like it's still like live data. And so I need to talk with Kathryn offline on like what I'm legally allowed to show because I want to demo that, but we're gonna just do the safe one today where it's just a little local data set. But it's really cool
Yeah,
because the AI prompts has the ability to plug into any of them that or
I
even
think
your own data.
you
So what were you
show
gonna say?
anything, but you can't publish the code is our, like, line on it. 'Cause
Okay.
we're not, like, endorsing a specific one or, like, any of that, so you can't do a,
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Okay,
yeah,
well,
you can't
remind me. Actually,
push
I'm
this
gonna
up.
make like a quick. Hey Siri, remind me to talk to Kathryn about AI in 1 hour. Because there's something coming out, and I don't think it's been approved. So I just gotta clear some things up. It's fine. It's fine. But
No
we're
big
gonna
deal.
be safe today. There's also a rating component, which she was the one I was playing around with during Kathryn's thing because I got something cute to happen for her, and the timeline component. So I'm just going to go through and uncomment them. I have already included them, but if we do have time or if you have interest, I did this actually for a live workshop that I did last week. The people that wanted me to live demonstrate how to include like from scratch, like make a new app, include the license, and include a component. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
Like it's not
that's
beautiful, but
classic, that's core
yeah,
knowledge, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, let me know in the chat if you want to see that. But I'm just going to kind of plug and play right now and talk about these 4 new components. So here is my application. I have a sidebar component. At some point, because the sidebar, like I'm just going to scroll through and show you, like, because so many releases back, she started getting chunky. I started commenting out some of the components or pulling them off. So, like, for instance, the color picker, instead of just inlining the color picker and all of like the data that she was like using, I like pulled her out and put her in her own component. And so that way I could like
Yeah.
choose to load her or not load her. But for this release, I am so excited to say our sidebar component is standalone, and Kendo
Ooh.
UI, of course, supports the latest Angular 18, along with all of the fun new features that have been coming out with the Angular Renaissance, like standalone, like control flow, etc., etc. So I went in and I made, no laughing, Kathryn. I went in and I made our component standalone true. The only period, only downside to standalone components is this imports array right here. And it has plagued the GDEs. for a while. I remember whenever it was like,
She's
gosh,
chunky. Yeah, that's a
like, I mean,
list.
well, what happens is because this list used to live in our modules, right? Because like you look at my imports,
Right.
right? This used to live
Mhm.
in the main mama module, app module, or God forbid you had feature modules. We can talk later if you have opinions. It lived in those places. And I honestly love this and I prefer this because it is very declarative and it's clear who is using what. I have a sidebar component, right? And she is
Mhm.
using these like what 25 imports, 26 imports from these 26 different places. That to me is key information. And it's amazing because as I was like cleaning things up, making things standalone, moving things around, I realized how many things had been left over and I wasn't getting notifications or they weren't being tree shaken properly. And so it is ugly, yes, but it is beneficial. Maybe one day we'll have a better place to stick our imports array. But right now, whenever you go standalone true, anything that you were importing in your modules, you now have to do in your imports array. And so for before, I actually, in order to create this sidebar or to make this sidebar component standalone, every single component that I had imported before into the main app module, I had to move over. And so, but it was honestly super smooth and easy because it just yelled at me. It was like, what is a tile layout? And I was like, all right. And then it would be
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what is
Yes.
typography? And I'd be like, all right, like give it all of the modules. Um, Kendo UI is moving towards standalone. I don't know. I think I'm allowed to say that. I'm not allowed to say anything in further details, but we are moving. It's so hard, Kathryn, because there's so many rules with so many
We're
things. And I'm
heading in
like,
a direction. Yeah, you have to be really
we,
careful because we don't wanna overpromise and
I
then, like, shift
know,
because
and
we wanna
people
make
get
the right. Yeah.
upset. And I personally am not one of those people. I'm like last minute, hey, you guys had a change of heart, and like, okay, cool. Like something happened. But like there are people out there who can't handle that. So we are moving towards that, and we actually do have a new like deprecation strategy because as you can manage, if you're an Angular person or you're like dabbling with Angular, because of all of the newness, it is going to modify um, our deprecation and how quickly we do. Because if we want to use the new stuff, we have to deprecate the older versions of Angular
Yeah.
sooner rather than hanging on to them. And so I'm very excited about standalone. And right now in our imports, you will see all the way down for all of these things. Like this is a Kendo UI button and buttons module. This is a Kendo UI icons module.
Mhm.
Yes, it is standalone, but I'm using Kendo UI modules because as of right now, this date in June of 2024, Kendo UI still uses modules, but we have a hybrid approach where we support standalone. That will not always be the case. And actually, very, very soon, we will move towards a world where we are standalone, our docs are standalone, everything. So you will no longer import a module
Mm.
because there is no module. However, if you are stuck in an older version of Angular and you're like, what am I going to do? You just go to npm and you reference an older version of that particular package that has a
So,
module still.
you're gonna have a lot to talk about in our Q4 release is what I'm hearing.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Interesting, interesting.
But yes, please don't panic if you're ever like, oh dear Lord, what am I gonna do? My components aren't loading properly. Like we can walk through it. Ping anyone on the team. We've got our feedback portal as well, but like there it's gonna be fine. And I'll create some resources too to help with migrating or perhaps even existing on an older version. But so I went through, and if you go down to my sidebar component itself, instead of doing feature components or like mini components this time, I thought it'd be easier for the stream. I'll probably pull them out later just so that we're not loading it all in like this. But for this stream, if you want to pull it up on GitHub, I'm in the sidebar component TypeScript file, and you can just kind of scroll through and see the functionality behind the components that we're going to be using. So the first one that we can talk about is the AI prompt. And she has, you can see down here, Sankey. Like Sankey doesn't need a lot. It just needs like the data that it's loading in.
Mhm.
AI prompt, as you can imagine, needs a lot more configuration. It needs to know, for instance, like who it's getting the data from. And AI prompt is like, let me actually show you. It's nestled underneath conversational UI. So when you npm install and you want to use AI prompt, you will npm install the Progress Telerik conversational UI package, right? And so then underneath that, AI prompt is one of the options. And so the AI prompt is really, it's a cool, we're calling them smart components. It is a way, and a smart component is a Microsoft term, literally just means an AI enhanced component.
Hmm.
And so anytime, for instance, am I allowed to say this? I don't know if I'm allowed to say what I was about to say, so I'm gonna not say that. So many things. I'm so sorry. We have components that are being integrated with AI to make them smart components. And so it's just kind of a natural flow. And this is my favorite use of AI. Like, honestly, if I don't have to think about it or even know that it is using AI to make my experience better, to make the using easier, great, have at it.
Yeah.
I don't care what you use. And so I love the fact that we're like starting to, in components that it makes sense, just go ahead and put AI into there integrated if you want it. Toggle on and off if you want to use it. And so this AI prompt is kind of one of these things where it's like a step towards that. Oftentimes, whenever we have this big picture in mind of like, we want the calendar to do this, we have to make this component, this component, this component all work together, or maybe they didn't even exist, right? And then, so this is one of these stepping blocks of like, this is a really cool component. It's leading the way for other smart components too.
Yes.
So, yes, with this prompt, it shows how, and it is an encapsulated demo on our docs. Like, it's not actually pinging, or it doesn't have any like real data set. But let's go ahead and show. So I go up here to my, I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller. She's hard to read. So here I have my Kendo card that's holding this information in the sidebar, and it tells you like, look, you go into components, conversational UI, AI prompt, there it is. And I also have the code line to npm install that. But here I have a commented out main section. And so we're going to bring that into Leap. And so we have an active view, prompt outputs, prompt request, and then specified prompt view and output view nestled inside of the prompt. So what is that doing? What does that look like? So if we go back to our ponies application and we scroll all the way up to the top of our sidebar, you'll see now this, if I click on the Ask AI button, or like, excuse me, output, retry. Oh yeah, I was playing around with this and I thought it was really, let's see, can I generate? So you can, it's weird because you can generate multiple like mock responses. And my data set, let me actually show you my data set real quick. It's not very big. Whee! Oh my goodness. Getting lost in my tree, my hierarchy. Okay. Sidebar component, we're back to the AI prompt. So yes, it's not very chunky at all. I have the
Oh,
active
so it just says
view.
for any prompt, it turns back, this is a mocked response. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
it's very like, it's not very, it's just talking of smart components.
This one's,
Um,
yeah.
but I really want, there is a blog post coming out that I'm pretty sure will be fine and legal, that goes into further detail, and it does actually use
And actually,
and there's a couple that like LLMs that it uses and integrates for not the AI prompt but the conversational UI one. And so I'm thinking it's okay. I mean, it's like,
there's also Ed actually made a really cool AI
did he?
demo, which like, as you
What
know,
do
it's
you know
like,
what he used? Like which one he used?
I think it was OpenAI. I'm trying to
Okay.
remember, but it was really cool because it was voice integrated, and so it was like mimicking the whatever interaction of like a personal assistant, like a
Oh,
Siri
that's
or
really cool.
a Alexa, or like
That's
I'm gonna
so
say all the names and make all of
cool.
yours at home go crazy. Yes.
You've got Google. Come on, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. OpenAI. Oh, somebody else saw its demo, so you guys know what I'm talking about.
Perfect.
But yeah,
I love that. I guess
it
so.
was really cool. He sent me a video of it where he's like asking, it'd be like, "Hey, can you, show me, tell me the answer to blah 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 blah," and it would be like, and then it talks back the way a digital assistant does, and it's like, yes, the capital of New York is,
I
is-
actually noticed that. I was reading through our I'm going to pull back up our, if I go here to our AI prompt, I think I was reading through events, but then I
I
think
interrupted
there's,
you.
oh no, sorry. There's there's like with OpenAI, you have the ability to like generate new assistants, and it's almost like you shall be Alfred, and you shall be
Mhm.
Mandy, and you shall be, and then it's like these like people.
It's funny because I was teasing Ed. I think, I'm trying to remember if this was like a group conversation or not when we were talking about how digital assistants are always female voiced. So Ed was sending it to me
Oh,
and he
that's
was
right.
like, I made a digital assistant that has a masculine voice, specifically because of what we were talking about.
Uh, I'm gonna go find his demo. That's amazing. And
It's very
I was planning on doing. I will. I was planning on plugging this in. Um, I think as long as I can like show the code, because it would kind of be weird to just like show the working demo
yeah, I
and not.
think I think when it's local like this, you can show the code. If you're
Okay.
I just don't think we can like show the code of us endorsing a particular connection with a specific AI service is my understanding of where the line is drawn.
Okay. I will
But
try very hard.
I'm sure it's the same for all of you watching, right? Like our AI
Mhm.
policies are developing, they're constantly under review, they're constantly evolving. They're making choices to make us safe and to keep you guys safe and
Yes, no,
all of
absolutely.
that. I think they're actually doing a really good job of approaching this in a way that makes sure we're being responsible and ethical about it. But the side effect of that is that it is changing all the time as the technology changes. And that's why both of us are like, I think I can do this. I think I can say this. Like,
Yes. Like, could I be more cryptic? Yes.
but it's
Okay.
coming from a good, responsible, social, moral, ethical place. I
I love
swear.
that Ed did that, and I'll talk offline with you to make sure, because I'm going to plug in the AI prompt with a couple different ones, because I think it's really valuable as
Yeah.
developers are interested in like the like AI is blowing up, right? And so as developers are
Yeah.
interested in integrating this, just even like the basic steps, how you get started, how you'd integrate those
Yes.
with any of our components. And so I shall endeavor to be cryptic and yet helpful. Let us move on. I've got three other components real quick. I have the rating. We'll do him in a minute. Let's go back and show Sankey, because you all saw the React version of the Sankey chart, and that is again under components, charts, Sankey. So if I go, and it's not a very verbose component, here we have the Kendo Sankey, and we're plugging in data. I named it Sankey data. I was having some data importing conflicts because, as you can imagine, with my sidebar, I've got like over 20 components. So one of them is already using data. So I renamed that Sankey data. Obviously, you can name it whatever you'd like to name it. If we go down to my Sankey chart, here you see I have public Sankey data to the type of Sankey data. That if we go all the way up to the top to my list of beautiful imports of death, you should see, let's just find it. Sankey, there she is. From the Kendo Angular charts, we're importing the charts module as well as the Sankey data model type. And so I'm setting my own local piece of data to that. And so if we go, very simple line, but you're missing a step, right? Because you're like, who the heck is data? So data is in, thank you, data. I believe I imported it from YALS, from a little local file here in the sidebar. And again, I think I'll just make components for each of these and put their imports in them. And then we'll just import it's kind of like what is it called? Meta. It's a meta thing where we're going to import the Sankey pony component that's
The Sankey
importing the
pony.
Sankey module from Kendo UI. Right? It's like two layers removed, but it helps clean up this sidebar. And I think it's very realistic to a lot of applications today that just blew the frick up. And so it makes
That's
sense.
probably true. Yes.
It makes sense to break things into components. But yes, let me show you the Sankey data real quick. Close this out. So here it is, that same data that you were seeing, but in TypeScript for Angular. We're importing Sankey data from, did you hear that big boom? They're like
I
tearing down
didn't.
our back fence. And so I'm just excited to see a digger go by. Like okay. So Sankey data here, very, very basic data. But if we go back, I uncommented it, I believe. Did I? I did. So yes, there's
I
our
love it.
Stinky chart. She is beautiful. We've
Look at her in light mode. So cute.
in light mode. I can't see in dark mode. It's hard to read. Everyone always yells at me for it, but I'm like, it's better contrast. So
I get it. I understand it. I just feel like we look at screens so much every day. My eyes get tired. Dark mode helps
mm,
me feel less visual fatigue.
yeah,
But
that makes sense. That makes sense.
but I
So here,
do put it in high contrast mode for whatever that's worth. So I feel your pain.
I turned it on, and every time my husband sees my monitor, I turned it on for an accessibility demo over a year ago, and I never disabled it because I loved it
Yeah.
so much. Like, I didn't know it existed, and I was like, "It's what." And every time he kind of does like a double take because it's like it's harsh on some
Yeah,
things
it is.
that you're showing, but it's
I was
nice.
like, no, I'm the same way. I like turned it on. There was like I used to have all these like cute themes in my VS Code and my terminal and like all this
Mm,
stuff. I was like, oh, like how adorable. I had this, yeah, much like you, this kind of pinky, like very cute thing.
yes, yes.
And then when I turned on high contrast, it like overrode almost all of it with like
So that's the
outlines and
thing.
stuff.
Like a lot of my VS Code things, like for my theme, like got uglier because of
Yeah,
it. But because it was helping me so much visually, I was just like, I'll deal with
it's
it.
exactly
Like,
the same.
yeah, I'll
That's
do
exactly where I was going. Was like, I miss my cute themes, but it got so much easier to see.
it. It did. Yeah. So we have the AI prompt we talked about. We have the Stinky chart that we talked about. The timeline is the next one that I'm going to show you. It's a very small amount as well.
Oh, that's right.
It's
That was
just,
new for you guys in this release, wasn't it?
oh, my name's Kathryn, and I've had the timeline component
I've
for
had the
years.
timeline for at least a couple of quarters now. Yeah.
Yes, we have a timeline component now, and I'm very excited about it. I'm pointing to this events file here. In again, it's just in the sidebar
Mhm.
folder for now. So if you want to pull it down in GitHub, you can check it out. It just has literally just an array of data for events, but then it groks this, the timeline component does. Let's grab her on the HTML side. There she is. And we're going to go down to, that's the rating. There's the timeline. So I have this main section on each of these Kendo cards, and that's where I put the actual code. And then
Mhm.
right above that is the ng add command that is also a line of code, but it's rendering as code so that you can copy it and plop it into your terminal. So if we terminal. Okay, so we go down to our timeline component here, and you see this beautiful vertical timeline. You can actually change it as well to horizontal. And I think it's a really cool addition. It's nestled inside of the layout if you're hunting for it. I didn't
Hmm.
expect that, and I was like, for a
Yeah,
while, I was like,
surprise.
for a while, I was like, oh, we didn't actually get it this release. They said we would, but I can't find it, and it was because it was
Oh,
nestled. So
yeah, yeah.
it's in layout. All right, our last one, and then we'll see if we have any questions and do a wrap. I love this one so much. Did you guys get the rating component?
I'm trying to find a nice way to be like, we've had the reading component. We've been
It's
done had
always
her.
bad when you like have to find a nice way, like thanks.
Yeah,
It's
she's actually old news for us. I try to remember too because I feel like again, like at the risk of being mean, I feel like it wasn't even the last one for us. I feel like it was like one before that.
okay, but like also our team has had a lot to deal
You guys
with
have
on
been
the
I'm not dunking at all. Because you guys sometimes get stuff way before we do. There's not necessarily like a rhyme or reason to it. It's just
well,
like
I
what the
know,
audience
and
needs
I think
most.
honestly we've had just a lot of like planning and dealing to make sure we're up to date with Angular and like that
Yes.
we're ready for what we're about to release and announce. So that was kind of like oh, we're working on this over here, but not we're doing it in obscurity, right? Like, and so you
Right,
can't
right,
really
right.
see what our efforts are going
They're
through.
grinding, they're working in silence. Yeah.
So, but we do have the rating component now. She's very basic. Kendo dash rating out of the box. Did I show you? I don't think I showed you the what she needs.
Mm.
List box. I don't actually think I have anything for her. Let's go and see if she renders. So if we go up to the Sankey AI prompt, there she is.
There we go.
So she's a new input. And so it's underneath. If you
Mm.
update your Telerik inputs module, you'll have her as a new one. You hover over. I love that. It's so pretty with the animations. But of course I didn't click yet, and so it's not saving it. So if I click on the 4, that's when it like locks it in. But you're not stuck with stars.
It could be
There's a little
anything.
you can do anything. That's why I was like, I was playing with it. Oh my gosh, I'm such a nerd. I got so excited. It was underneath. Oh, you do it in the markup. I'm sorry. So here in the rating component, you say icon, I think. I'm gonna try to do this from memory, and then I think it's heart icon. No, it is not. Oh, it's just heart. So there's font icons, and they
And the
don't
SVG
use
icons.
yes.
Yeah.
So if you're fonting, using font icon, fonting,
I love that.
there's no there's no icon in the stream, like or in the string of the
Okay.
name.
Yeah, the
But if you're
name.
an SVG, so like if it was like SVG icon on this side, then it would be heart icon.
Got it.
So here are our hearts, and they're
Aw.
so pretty. Oh my god, I love them.
Can
Anyways,
you
that was what I was
do
like.
can you do halvesies, or does it have to be whole hearts?
Ooh, you know what? I actually
I don't know the answer to
can you
that.
guys?
I
Because
don't
I
remember.
know we could that would actually be a really fun demo to build with like some custom CSS on top of Kendo UI.
I'm
That'd
gonna
be
find
so
out. I'm
fun.
gonna look up our docs
Okay.
and
I'll look up ours. Thank you. Nope, rating. Yes. So we have selection precision. The precision. Oh my gosh, it's there.
I feel like I remembered it, and I
We
wasn't
don't even have
100%
to.
sure.
Okay, so let's see how margin. No, that's not it. Value precision equals half. Like it's just a string we're setting here. Let's try it. Precision equals half. Back to our dashboard. Scroll up.
Now it feels like Zelda, you know, when you with the hearts.
Oh my
Now
god,
that
thank
would
you,
be
Kat.
fun to do like the heads up display, like in like Tears of the Kingdom or
Mhm.
something.
Yes.
That would be
But we need
super
to
fun
like
to build.
we need to get like a pixel version of the icon. I think you can put in your own custom ones.
For the fonts, yes, I think so.
Okay.
You can
I
you the only part I can tell you 100% for sure, you can upload your own custom font icons into the theme builder. I don't know if you could probably integrate them with the components. I have never tried that in my life, if I'm
Ooh,
completely
that sounds
honest.
fun, especially for like a pixely heart. That sounds
That would be fun.
fun. This is the repo. Again, Alyssa Michelle is my name on GitHub. Tour of Ponies is the name of this application. Check it out. I'm going to be updating it and integrating it this week, actually, with a .NET backend with minimal APIs. So pull it down, play around, have fun. And I think that's all from at least the Angular side. We had a ton. And if you missed what do we call it? Do we call it a webinar?
Yeah.
I think we call it a
Yeah,
webinar.
so the webinar is where we cover everything. We do it super fast. So it's like a real marathon of all of us running through every single new thing. We talk just a little bit about each new component, each new
Mm.
thing, a feature, whatever it may be, depending on what we're talking about, right? So like ThemeBuilder has a bunch of exciting new features, some of which we showed here in like deeper dive. But if you want the like broad context on everything that is new, the webinar is the place to be. You can also, of course, check out all of the what's new docs and the change logs for whichever thing it is you're most interested in. So,
No,
and I
and
like to shout
so
out always, if you have strong feelings about what you want to see in our next release, please tell us. Like genuinely, please tell us, because we take those into account, and it really does inform the decisions that we make for each upcoming release. So that's my soapbox moment on that.
and also don't panic.
No panic. Keep your
Don't
towel.
panic.
You
Just
hoopy
like get
fruit.
your towel, don't panic, a pint of beer, some peanuts, you're fine. Like
I thought you were making a Hitchhiker's Guide joke.
I just continued it. He like downs the beer and he's got the peanuts for salt for the
That's
journey.
right.
Like I
You're
listened
right.
to the OG radio like
That's
released
right, you just listened
version.
to it. Now
Like
it's
I'm sorry,
me.
I
I
took it
wasn't
way too
listening to
deep,
what you
way too
said.
deep.
No, it was me. It was me.
all for us, but have a good
That's
one,
it.
and we'll see you on the next one.
See you guys later.